Ladies and gentlemen, this is Rajiv Soni here. I'm your host today for the 18th episode of Phir Hindustani. I'm joined by my co-host Tanya Khanna. Over to you,
Hello
Tanya.
everyone. Hello everyone. I am Tanya Khanna from Delhi Public School, Mathura, batch of 2008. I am a finance professional working for a leading IT firm in Delhi.
Thank you. Today we have two very illustrious alumni from DPS Mathura Road. We have the older brother Viney Joshi, who is in Australia. We have the younger brother Vivek Joshi, who's in the Bay Area, California. And we welcome them both on this particular show. And before we go forward, I would like to share the concept behind this Phir Hindustani. Basically, it goes back to the time when I was in the US some 15, 18 years ago. And I was always, my heart was still here. I was there physically. I was working there. I was earning there. I was paying my taxes there. But my heart was here. And when I came back, of course, then I began to miss the US. So it was the other way around then. And I got a chance to start this talk show about 3-4 months back. And so here we are. And we've had some wonderful people from across the globe, from Dubai to, to New Zealand, to South Korea, to America, of course.
Norway.
And Russia. We have Dibanga Dekha here.
How can you forget that?
In the audience. And he's, hi. And he's in Russia. So we have covered quite a few countries. And it's so wonderful to know that DPS alumni from different parts, from different DPSs. They've been students from DPS Mathura Road, DPS RK and I think once there was a couple of people from DPS Vasant Kunj also who've come on the show. So without wasting too much time on all this, let's get on to the meat of the show. Let me start with Viney. Viney, tell us something about how you landed up in Australia. Was it planned? Was it, was it unplanned? Did you just land up there? Yeah.
Thanks, Rajiv. Good evening, everyone, to everyone in India, and good morning, Vivek. And I don't know what the time in Russia is, but I presume maybe morning or late in the afternoon. Welcome, Devanga. I was working in the Middle East in the late 80s and early 90s, and I had come back from the Middle East, and I was invited to speak at a conference in Colombo. And this was a conference where I was speaking on one of my pet intensive care topics. And I went there and I did the talk. The guy who was chairing the session, he was an intensivist from Australia. Now, everyone knows it was next to impossible for doctors to go to Australia. First of all, they wouldn't take doctors from overseas. Then the exams are virtually next to impossible to pass. So when this guy asked me for my CV, it was the evening function. I thought, geez, this guy has had one too many to drink. Anyway, I gave him my CV and the rest is history. A week, 10 days later, I started getting phone calls from all over the place for intensive care positions. And I had more job offers than I could handle. And I ran into this particular intensivist who was an Indian of South African origin, Yugan Mudliar, from one of the leading intensive care units in Australia and Sydney. And he offered me a job and he said, well, we'll process your visa within this week. And the rest is history. That was late 94. And I arrived in early 95.
Okay, and you've been there ever since?
Yes, I've been here since 95.
Wow. So can we say that you've been more years outside India than you were in India?
Well, I left
Almost
India.
Equal.
Look, I left India pretty much. I finished my postgrad in anesthetics from Safdarjung Hospital. And
Right.
Within about 12 months of that, I left India, and that was probably the late 80s. Yes, that's right. And I've been out ever since.
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, Vivek, tell us something about your journey from India to the US.
Hey guys, I actually left India almost after I passed school. I came here for the schooling. So it's been pretty much, grew up here, so to say, all by myself. In terms of, being in India and being here, I think it's almost 2 to 1 for every year I spent in India. I've spent about 2 years here now. So it's been, it's pretty much been here all this time. Moved around. I mean, US is a pretty big place.
Right.
In India, you can fly about 2 hours, from one end to the other. Here, about 6 hours flying from one end to the other. The map doesn't show it properly because they flatten the thing out. The sort of curves off in the poles. So the thing is, but it's a pretty wide country. So it's, you can't say that somebody's been all the 50 states or something like that. Been through a few states, but not all of them.
So it's been a number of years now in the US, and I'll shift the focus back to Vinay. So Vinay, in your work, can you tell us, some maybe two important differences between working, and living in Australia compared to what it was then? Of course, there is a change in the time paradigm, but if you were to compare life in Australia, how would you bring out two significant differences?
Well, Australia is one of the leading lights when it comes to intensive care training or the field of intensive care as a specialty. Towards the late 80s and the early 90s, before I came to Australia, I was instrumental in setting up the College of Intensive Care in India, which is now well and truly established. There were a couple of intensivists from, there's a cancer hospital, Tata Cancer Hospital in Bombay, and from Hinduja Hospital, there was a Dr. Kapadia. So there were half a dozen of us who got together and got the Indian Society for Critical Care Medicine up and running. And then after that, I pretty much left India and came here. And I mean, Australia, the work ethic is extremely different. Work is very, the standard of medicine is very, very high. And commitment is extremely high. Things are really focused and done in a very regimented and professional manner. There are no one can cut corners and escape. So a lot of hard work, but rewarding in the end and well paid for what you put in. And I came in to meet a particular need of mine, and I accomplished it sort of to the point where I wanted, and then had a bit of a change in direction, wherein I was encouraged by my peers and some of my mentors to take that change.
I was just running through, your details. I mean, you are having almost a portfolio of 20 hospitals and close to 250 doctors who are reporting to you. That's a very large number.
Yes, but sometimes, the flip side of that is managing that many doctors is like herding cats. Sometimes people ask me, what do I do for a living? And I said, I herd cats for a living. So and people find it funny and they wonder, what am I talking about?
Yeah. So, I mean, if I can now ask this question, to Vivek. So Vivek, how you being in the IT industry there, how clued up are you about the IT industry in India as of today? And if you were to,
Sorry,
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, please.
Okay, so how clued up are you with the IT industry in India as it's existing here? And how would you try and articulate the differences?
To be honest, I've never been in the IT industry. My thing always, for example, I used to work at Intel, and there I worked on some of the chips that people used at this time. So even today, some of the processors you use, I have patents on those in there. So the thing is, I've never been formally in the IT industry, mainly as a supplier. So worked on chips, worked on making computer systems for storage as well as for compute, networking. I mean, the thing is, the paradigm is shifting now. Before
Right.
you used to be at specific chips. In India, there's been nothing in terms of semiconductor development. There used to be a fab long time back in Chandigarh. There was a fire there and that thing burned down. They never replaced it. You keep on hearing that India might do something, down south, but nothing has been forthcoming yet. So right now, the India industry is very different. It's mainly been, on the coding side of it, mainly in the software side. I've been mainly in the
Right.
hardware side. So
Right.
that distinction comes up. People like to make that distinction in most places, but people here look at it more as not the software guys, but the other people. They look at it more like it's a single industry, and you have the two components of it because IT is going to use them. The question then comes up is which one are you going to go with? You need
Right.
hardware and software. If you
Right.
don't understand the hardware properly, software is useless. You can't optimize it. So India is doing mainly coding, and I think India has to come up a little bit on the hardware side if they really want to be players. If you look right now, with the current environment, business environment,
Right.
China is trying to come up on the hardware side. I think India has to do something very similar and look at setting up fabs, maybe start up with the older fabs and then get things moving.
Right. When I look at the two of you, very accomplished brothers, two different parts of the globe, in fact, opposite ends. And I was I was just wondering that we in India seem to have lost out on brilliant minds like you. So what is it? I mean, if I was to ask Vinay first, what is that one thing that you may want, which you think is easily possible in the medical industry, in the medical scenario in India, to make things improved, to improve on things and to make things a lot better.
That's a good question, Rajiv, and a bit of a tough one to answer, but I'm going to be absolutely candid about it. The mindset and attitudes in India need to change. And the medical industry in India has degenerated, if I may use the word. Money still rules the clown. And mind the words, money still rules the clown, because you choose yourself and let yourself be manipulated by the lust of money. And in medicine, there is a degradation of how things are done. I was working in a hospital which was a competitor with Apollo Hospital in Chennai. And I was directing an intensive care unit of 25 beds, very satisfying professionally. But what went on in that intensive care unit worried me immensely with the practices I saw, what people were doing to fleece money out of people. Until those mindsets change on bringing in quality, as opposed to how we can maximize our incomes, honesty and dedication to patient safety. Now, I work full-time as a medical administrator, and my portfolio mainly is in safety and quality and patient care systems and ensuring good outcomes. And to do that, you have to make some sacrifices. You can't cut corners and say that we have a good safety quality record. If your safety quality record is going to be paramount, then you have got to forget about the mighty dollar or the mighty rupee, whatever you want to call it. I had a very tough time in India I had been in the Middle East for 4.5 years directing an intensive care unit, and I had set up a retrieval system in Libya. They never had a retrieval system. Finally, by the time I left, they had set up, we had two small fixed wing Beechcraft aircraft, choppers, and those kind of things. And when I came to India, I was totally disillusioned and lost with the kind of nonsense that went on. And I said, I cannot be part of it, so I better get out of here. And that was my main motivation to leave India.
Yeah, I often think about that, and I feel really bad that the best of the brains in the country are overseas. But yeah, what you're saying is correct. I mean, and you're right. You have to be candid about all this. Vivek, what is your take on this?
Mine was, to be honest, I came for the schooling part of it.
Right.
So mine was, the schooling is going to be much better over here than it was in India. I mean, at that time, you had very limited number of schools in India.
Right.
And I think it was competitive then. It's probably gotten even worse now, than what it was then. So the thing was, I figured I could probably get a better education and then, see what happens from there at that point on. And, for me, going back and forth to India has been pretty a lot less than probably should have been. So the thing is, insofar as how the Indian side of it works, I've seen it secondhand through some people, but frankly, I don't think sometimes they model it properly. So I really don't know if that's the way it works, or it's just few of the bad apples you dealt with kind of a scenario. So would differ from that one.
Right. Uh, Let me ask you guys a question, because since you are at the opposite ends of the globe, of course, you're in different industries, completely different industries. But do you guys ever talk about the work ethics in your two countries? I mean, I'm sure Australia is different from the United States. It is. It has to be. But yet, both are very successful in the countries. Both are very successful economies. Um, I'll come back to you because you're the older one. How would you say Australia is different from America?
Oh, geez, we've got a very laid back lifestyle. And I'll tell you something, I couldn't last in America. I do remember having gone for a conference to New York many years ago, and I was staying there with a friend of mine, and you're wondering, everyone's running. And I almost felt like saying, let's tap someone on the shoulder and say, why are you running and where are you going? And I bet the answer will be, I'm running because the guy in the green shirt is running. So it must be all right. So then that's why I'm running too. Australia has got a very laid back lifestyle, wide open spaces. It's not very crowded still. And it's a great place to live. And it's a very, very unique country. Extremely unique, and the culture is very unique, and the nuances that you see here of people in Australia is very unique.
Vivek, California is not laid back?
Well, California is supposed to epitomize, the laid back culture. The problem in the US is it's a huge country. It's about 3 times the size of India.
Right.
So you can find laid back places if you look. There are places you're not going to find laid back. I mean, New York is not going to be it. It was probably still is the finance capital of the world.
Right.
In California, in the Silicon Valley, you see something completely different. Go about 100 miles in, there's a place called Yuba City.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you walk in Yuba City, it looks exactly like Punjab. You've the shop owners are Punjabis, the place looks Punjabis. The music that people are playing in their cars is Punjabi.
Right.
So the thing is that there is laid back places in here, but you have to look to find them. There are places retirees go to where sort of nothing happens.
Right.
So, but the thing is, people deliver on their commitments. That's something that's very important here. You make a promise, you have to uphold it. You just can't, willy-nilly show up and half an hour late, 15 minutes late, or just kind of ignore calls, anything else.
Right.
That's going to put you in very bad standing. And that's something I think people in India do a lot more, than probably over here. So that's pretty much how I look at that one.
So if on a cliff it was possible for you to exchange your places of work and residences, would you do it? Other things being equal, of course.
Right. Answer from me?
Yeah.
50-50. Probably not. I'm not a big fan. I don't know if Vivek knows, I am fully qualified to work as a healthcare executive in the US. I have qualified the exam, the American College of Healthcare Executives, as a fellow.
Yeah, I'm sure.
As a fellow. But if I tried hard enough, I could get a job. But the furthest I would go to North America would be to Canada, and certainly US probably with reservations.
Vivek, I can see a smile on your face. Let's hear you.
Unfortunately, my answer is going to be an unqualified no. Because I've been here long enough. There is no way I could go around, move there, and adjust to the place. You get used to a certain way of living, and that's how things work. I mean, you can adapt. Humans always adapt. But the thing is that there are things you take for granted. I know exactly how things work. I can do whatever I need to if I need to from my bed, if I, in certain scenarios. I don't need to get up and go do a transaction in the bank. I don't need to do a lot of things. I can take care of a lot of things from my home.
Right.
So the thing is, you have to find out how things work. And the key is to make life easier for the things you need to get done. In the US, I know mostly how to get those things done. So
Right.
that's, that minimizes the stress of day-to-day living. And for that simple reason, the answer unfortunately would be a no.
Okay, so having asked the two of you whether you would like to swap places, let me ask you: any plans of ever thinking of coming back to India? Say, Vinay.
Geez, tough one, Rajiv. You know, I remember Dad used to mention that as you get older, your roots start to pull you in. There are times I have entertained the thought, what would it be that, in 10, 15 years time, when I retire, I'd probably go back to India. And then you sit back and reflect on that sensibly and say, geez, you won't be able to live in that, you're used to a certain way of life and you're used to a certain way of living. Yes, life could be cushy. You could have someone helping you, cooking for you, and also driving you around and all those sort of things. But if you look at the bigger picture, it would be very, very hard to readjust to go back. Certainly the thought has crossed my mind. There are certain times, you get frustrated with things. The thought has crossed my mind. And I thought even, all right, by the time you're ready to retire, you worked here, you earned the income here, and then you could pretty much retire in India like a king. But the thing then it comes back to the same thing. For example, in just the little day-to-day ticks that would kind of interfere with your way of living and your quality of life. And it would be very disruptive at that stage of someone's life, particularly by that time I would have been here nearly 40 years, God willing. And then that would be very hard to go back to the Indian way of living. I mean, I have not lived in India since the late 80s. And
Right.
say in 15 years time, it'll be almost 50 years that there would be a dimensional change in how things are in India.
Vivek.
There's a saying, never say never. You can't predict the future. I could never, predict where I'm at right now. That's the reality of it. Having said that, I doubt it's ever going to happen. I think if you could probably plan things out, unfortunately, life you can't. If I could plan things out, maybe my last year I'd spend it there. Since I can, the answer is probably going to be no, because I just wouldn't know how to function. I mean, it's really funny. I go back to India and, people see me walking around. They don't know, who I am, which is perfectly fine by me. But they know my dad. They know that they have two sons. So most people haven't seen me. They cannot recognize me, even for that matter. So the thing comes up is, I am still there, my father's son, which I'm perfectly fine with. But the reality comes up is most people look at it like they don't know how to, handle me, how to talk, or anything else. So it's going to be a huge, adjustment I'll have to make. Find out how things work. See how things, what makes the place go around. And that'll be very, very tough for me to look at. And for that reason, I think the answer, again, it's going to be unfortunately no.
So I think at this point, then maybe I should definitely ask both of you, starting again off with Vinay. So how much of Indianness is there, in your day-to-day life? Let's say that it's not there in your professional life, but how much of it is there um, in your personal life, in your day-to-day life?
Truthfully speaking, next to nothing. To be very honest with you, not a lot at all.
How about food? How about food?
Well, even food, for example.
Really?
I mean, I'm not stuck up with Indian food every day.
Right.
Like I'm working interstate. Home is in Queensland, and I'm working interstate, so I'm on my own. And I basically eat everything, and no offense meant to anyone, and that includes beef as well. So in fact, having steak a couple of times a week is one of my weaknesses.
Sure.
So from dietary habits to where, like, for example, like what Vivek was saying, here, you even go to work in a formal pair of shorts. The culture here is shorts, and this thing, you wear formal shorts and, the black shoes, and then you wear those to work as well, to the hospital. That would be scandalizing in India if a guy with gray hair like me walks down the main road in Green Park wearing shorts. That would be quite a sight. Because last time I tried to do that, because I mean it was bloody stinking hot when I was there in India, and I tried to go down to the market wearing a pair of shorts, and my dad nearly had a blue fit, and he said, no, it won't work here. So looking at all those sort of things, I mean, I would say yes, I fancy Indian food. Yes, there is the festivals and all, you think of them, but I couldn't say very honestly, hand on heart, to say that I'm still caught up in the Indian. I mean, I'm very flexible with my eating habits, with my general other, habits and interactions with people. A lot of people give my example as somebody who has really assimilated into the Aussie culture. The only way I haven't assimilated is I don't swear as much as the Aussies do. And I don't drink as much as the Aussies do.
All right, that's interesting. That's interesting. And how about you, Vivek? How would you answer this question?
It's kind of interesting. I don't differentiate that this is the Indian part of it or this is the American part of it. I mean, in America right now, if you remember, you'd mentioned you'd been here a while back.
Yes.
And since then, a ton more Indian restaurants. You have food from almost everywhere in the world.
Mm-hmm.
So the question then comes up: is there something you want to eat? You can eat that.
Right.
Indian food is very hard to make, on a daily basis.
Right.
The prep time can be very, very long, and if you're constrained for time, that's not something that's going to fly.
Mm-hmm.
So the thing comes up is it just depends what scenario you're on. So if you're, for example, maybe having a quick food, get something quickly, maybe it's going to be pasta. It's much easier. If you want to make something that's, that goes through the whole 9 yards, then you can do Indian food. So it's a case by case basis. It's not going to be like, okay, if you are insistent, though, I do want to eat Indian now, in the middle of the week, well, you can go to a restaurant and get something. And that's always the case. So, you can pick and choose what you want here. So
how about how about Indian festivals? How about do you remember to celebrate like Diwali, Holi, and all these festivals?
when the kids were small,
Mm-hmm.
for my son, I think he was about 3 years old. It was a very big thing for him when he got to rub the gulal on my face, because I had to bend down for him to do that.
Right.
For him, that was one of the best things. I mean, the whole day he was ecstatic because dad did that for him, kind of a
Right.
thing, rather than, standing upright, kind of, and not bending down at all to him. So the thing is, I mean, yeah, you celebrate the festivals. Now the culture in India, California and the US has changed a lot.
Yes.
You have a lot more Indians.
Mm-hmm.
We have, Holi here at the Stanford University, which is a lot of people attend, and people even not just, Indians. You have Caucasians, you have, Asians, and from other parts of Asia, everywhere, they all attend there. So you do celebrate almost all the festivals. You're aware of them. If you go to the
Yes.
temple, they'll tell you when is the Shara Diwali. They posted on their website.
Right.
The Shara was recently, and they had a celebration at the temple. Now, obviously, nor can everybody in India do the same thing. You're not going to burn the 3 effigies.
Right.
So you can't do that at home, but otherwise you can do everything else. You can do your pujas and all that. It's controlled. I'll be honest with you. You cannot have, if I do a havan inside the house,
Mm-hmm.
for example, not to say I have done it, but if you were to do that, the fire alarms are going to go off.
Yeah. I was just about to say that the smoke alarms will,
Exactly. And they might start dispensing water inside and destroy the whole place.
Correct.
So you're not going to do that. So there's certain things you can or cannot do.
Mm-hmm.
But there's nothing precluding you from doing it outside. And I've gone to friends' houses where they have done havans, but they do them outside, and that's how it works. So you make certain adjustments, but you celebrate. I mean, it depends upon you, what you want to do and how you want to do it.
Right. So how often have you guys come to India or come to India? How often do you guys come to India? And so when was the last time you came here, Viney?
Look, I am guilty of not having been to India for a while. And
What does that mean? A while is what? 5 years, 10 years?
About a little over 5 years, probably
Okay.
close to 6.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I haven't been back home as much as I would have liked to, and they were because of, obvious reasons. I was dealing with some issues here, because of which I couldn't leave, for 3-4 years, those things went on, which sort of precluded my absence. It would have been a problem to leave here and go there. And so that really didn't happen. I would love to be able to go back more often than I'd like to. I'd probably, ideally speaking, at least once in 12 months, I would definitely like to go home.
Right.
And particularly with Dad getting on in years, I certainly would probably want to see maybe even twice a year. Even if it meant going for 4 or 5 days, that would be something that I would want to do once this nightmare of COVID is over. Definitely, it's going to change. It's certainly changed my mindset.
Right. So when you go back to India, or when you have been going back to India, does it coincide with Vivek also? I'm putting this now to Vivek also.
Can I go ahead?
Sorry, because I just thought I'll take his take. I'll have his take on this also.
See, my coming to India has been very rare initially.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The first couple of decades, I think I was there maybe 3 times.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
So, and 2 of them were almost like back-to-back kind of things.
Right.
So it's very, very infrequent. The last few years I'd been there, initially it was like after I lost my mom about 10 years ago.
I'm sorry to hear that.
So after it was like maybe once a year for a few years. And then I did, twice a year. Actually, I was supposed to fly to India the day India went into lockdown.
Oh.
So if they would have gone to lockdown a day later,
you would have got stuck here.
I would have been in India, because the thing is, the flight was at 1 o'clock in the morning, and they locked down India for that day.
Right.
So this was a Saturday morning flight. So Friday I was supposed to fly out Saturday morning.
21st
and India went to lockdown Friday.
Yeah, 21st or 22nd of March.
Exactly. So the thing is, if at that time that would have happened, I would have actually done that. I would have been there. The plan was, maybe if this thing calms down a little bit, I'll go back there again. And, been, like I said, the last about maybe 3-4 years, it's been twice a year, and probably come up there, again soon, once this thing ends.
Oh, okay, good. So what we'll do is now, gentlemen, what we'll do is we'll take a bit of a break here, and I'll request Tanya to come in and take over the rapid fire and get you guys answer some tough questions for her. Tanya, over to you.
Okay, so Rajiv, then it's not a break, All right, so the rapid fire is going to be first for you, Viney, and then we'll continue with Vivek. And Rajiv, you will be keeping the score, and at the end, you can tell us who's the winner and who's the runner-up. Okay, there will be 10.
I forgot to tell you guys, there's a concept of a winner and concept of a runners-up. So, and then there's a prize. So you guys better brace up.
There's a prize both for the winner and the runner-up, and I think Rajiv can tell you more about it.
Yeah, there's, okay, so we'll talk about the prize once you guys have done, your bit on answering.
Okay, so Viney, shall we start?
Yes, please. Yeah, good to go.
Okay, so there are 10 questions, and you can skip the question if you are not sure about the answer. Okay. And at the end, Rajiv will give us the score for each. So the first question is your classroom number, and I'm saying classroom number in 12th standard in Delhi Public School.
I was not in 12th standard. I was the last batch of 11. So I was in 11D.
Okay. Your maths teacher's first name in the last class wherever you studied.
VK Verma. I can't remember what V stands for, but it was VK Verma, the slender man with a thick set mustache.
Wonderful. How many total marks you secured in your board exams?
Geez, that's a tough one. I think I got total of 79%. 79% was my total grade.
Wonderful, you remember a lot. Okay, one rule you follow in your career or workplace that you can give us an advice to people who are listening to this.
Success equals 99% perspiration plus 1% inspiration. So hard work is the key to success.
Nice to hear that. A goal that you are proud you achieved in your career or your profession.
I have pretty much reached the pointy end of the pyramid in my profession here in Australia. So I report directly to the Director General of Health, and this is it's pretty much being number 2 in the in the ministry. So I have reached pretty much, and it's very uncommon for someone from the subcontinent to come and get to that level. I'm one of the few, and fortunately, I was very blessed to be nominated for Australian of the Year award in 2018. I made it to the finals, but I didn't get the award. But I was nominated for the Australian of the Year. That was the first time ever someone from the subcontinent was nominated.
That's both very inspiring and at the same time, words cannot justify the accomplishment, obviously. Okay, the best thing about fashion is.
Well, I'm always well dressed, and my thing is my fashion cut is Jermyn Street in London. I usually get my shirts from there. And Vivek knows I've got a bit of a fetish for good clothes.
This is the first time we are having two brothers on the show, so it's a nice kind of tone that is set over here. Okay, next question. A health shot that you swear by.
Hepatitis.
Okay. Money or fame?
I would go the second, fame.
All right. The first thing you do upon waking up.
Run to the coffee machine for my early morning fix.
Okay. Last question. The Spider-Man or Superman, and why?
Spider-Man, because he has an uncanny ability and the thing of unpredictability. Superman is a bit more predictable. Spider-Man is unpredictable and has got a bit more finesse.
Okay, wonderful. That was very well played. And now we would like to continue the same with you, Vivek. Are you ready?
Sure.
Okay, first question. Your school roll number in Delhi Public School.
No clue on the roll number.
Okay, question number 2. Till the class you studied Hindi. Your Hindi teacher's first name.
Again, no clue.
Looks like we have a clear. Okay,
I'll say this much. That was about, I think, about 40 years ago. So
yeah.
I had, given the fact, I think I've been to DPS twice since then, after I left. The odds of me getting a question on DPS right are pretty slim.
Okay, so maybe one more question. We'll give it a try. Then
Sure.
we'll move on from this. How many total marks you secured in your board exam?
Oh, that one is easy. 74.6.
I'm glad. Next question. The date of your entry into the US for the first time.
I don't remember exact date. It was sometime August 1982.
Wonderful. In one sentence, a recent accomplishment at your workplace.
Workplace, we're actually currently working on designing, a GPU-based system with high compute density. And I was part of that team. So, they are sort of taking up a lot more in terms of work, because of all this AI stuff that you're seeing. And some of those AI models can run better on the GPU. So that's what they have been doing there. So I was part of the team that brought that system to market.
That's a wonderful accomplishment, and I think kudos to that. Okay, next question. One thing the pandemic has taught you.
Probably self-reliance. I think that's more critical, because you cannot as easily before like you would go to a restaurant, pick up the food, and maybe sit there and eat the food and come back. Now it's more like take the food and go home, or maybe
Rush.
have it delivered to you.
Yeah.
So that's one thing.
All right. A health shot that you swear by.
Uh, I think Vinay can probably answer that question for me. The answer would be none. you know,
Maybe
because
any
there is.
health thing that you like to have while just chatting with your friends.
Pardon me, I missed the first
A
part.
health drink that you love to have while chatting with your friends.
Now I would say it's just pure probably water is the way it goes. Maybe some Coke. There was a time there was the different things in there, but your tastes change as you get older, or maybe when you were younger also, they change as you get older. So,
Very well answered. Okay, next question. Beaches or mountains?
mountains probably.
Okay. The last thing you do before turning in for the night.
Maybe look at the news one more time, kind of a thing. The cell phones have made it more convenient. You can look at the news and see what's going on because the time difference, it's almost 12 hours across in India. So
Hmm.
maybe just quickly check and see what's going on.
Okay. The last question. Age determines the mind or mind determines the age?
I think it's the second one.
Very well played. Okay, over to you. I think with that, we have ended the rapid fire round with Vinay and Vivek. And now I would ask Rajiv to tell us the score.
So I think the choice was a tough. In fact, Tanya, even though Vivek may not remember the first two questions pertaining to school, but I do believe from informed sources that he has several patents to his name in the United States. So it's okay. I think we'll give him marks. If he doesn't remember the classroom number or the name of his teacher, he's probably got more patents to his name. And I'm sure the school is very, very proud of him. But we have to have one winner. So let's just say that it's Vinay for now.
Okay,
Uh,
so
that makes Vinay at one and Vivek as the runner-up. And what is available as a prize is you give us an address and we'll have flowers delivered to your loved ones in India, anywhere in India.
both
Thanks.
for a winner and the runner-up.
Yes, both. So just let us know on the WhatsApp group the name, the full address, the PIN code, and a cell phone number, and leave the rest to Alma Talks of DPS Alumni Network. We'll do the rest.
That's so kind of you. Thank
Thanks.
you.
Oh. So with that, we've come to the end of the rapid fire. Let me just come back to the Q&A part of it again, and just a few more questions. I know it's very late for Vinay, and thank you very much. It's way past your bedtime. It's way past midnight there in Australia where you're living. But just a couple of more questions, Vinay. Thank you very much for that. I just wanted to ask you just two, three more questions in terms of, so you've given us an insight that you guys have been in, like in the US, your families are there, your kids are there. So how does your heart uh, roost for India,
Oh,
Vinay?
that's an easy one. The biggest thing is India-Australia cricket. So, I mean, it's a big thing. India-Australia cricket here is really big, bigger than what you guys could imagine.
Right.
And I sometimes go to watch the matches live with so I root for India when India play Australia. Otherwise, I barrack for Australia whenever Australia play everyone else. So it's as
Okay.
simple as that.
That's a wonderful answer. It's a wonderful answer. Vivek.
Can you repeat the question? Sorry, one more time.
Yeah, sure. So the question is that having heard about how you guys have gone overseas and you've got so embedded into the environment there, which you have to. I mean, if you have to live in a place, you have to get involved. Um, on several counts, in terms of environment, in terms of culture, in terms of language, food, everything. How would you say that your heart still roots for India? How is your dil fir bhi Hindustani?
There's a very nice saying: if you don't know where you've come from, you'll never know how far you've come. And the thing is, you have to remember where you started. Thing is, India has been pretty kind to me in terms of I learned whatever I did, what made me here today over there. I had teachers, I don't remember most of their names. I had teachers who basically taught me calculus, enough of it in high school that I could waive out of 3 of the 5 quarter requirements for calculus over here. There were, the thing is, my parents' love was in India. So for me to say, well, it's a lot complicated, I think, to, it's not so I can, on point say, well, this is why. It's all the, people who made me who I am, at this point, they're all Indians, majority of them in my early years. And what opinions you formulate then, what points of the culture you adopt, then it goes with you for the rest of your life. And so those
Right.
are the things I would look at and say, well, that's the part that you cannot forget. I may not remember, to be honest with you, I had a couple of places I can go there by feel. I have no clue if I have to give somebody directions from here, tell you how to get there. I have no idea how to get there. But I know if I am put on the road over there, I can exactly get there perfectly fine. And those are the things that you remember that you take with you to your grave when all's said and done.
Fantastic, fantastic. So, just maybe one or two last questions. So, what would be your advice, to the younger lot, uh, you know, who were aspiring to, let's say, come to Australia, or I'll start off with Vinay first. So, who are aspiring to come to Australia, who are aspiring to come there in the medical field in Australia, who are aspiring to come and contribute and live in those conditions in Australia, and who are willing to, be a part of that ecosystem over there in that country.
Rajiv, two things, what I always say to my junior staff who I mentor here, and I'll say the same thing to folks back home, is first of all, in life, it is important to have a vision and an objective, where you want to be, what you see yourself. And that takes a lot of introspection. By the time you're ready to finish school, you do develop an insight, and you start developing a vision for yourself and an objectivity to see what you want to do, where you see yourself in 12 months, 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years. Develop a vision, develop an objective, plan, and work towards it. Australia is a very competitive place, not as competitive as the US, but it is not very easy to break into unless you have to do the hard yak. A lot of us, I came in the middle rank kind of situation when I started my career, and it was sheer dint of hard work. But the thing is, if you prepare to do the hard yards and be focused on what you want to do and be honest, this is a country which will give you the ability to rise to the top. And if you can prove to people that you know what you're doing and you're prepared to work hard, you will get to the heights that you aspire to reach. And hard work, like I say to everyone, to my children, to my students in the university that I teach, to my junior medical staff, success equals 1% inspiration and 99% inspiration.
Right.
Hard work, hard work, hard work.
Vivek, what would you like to tell the youngsters who want to come to the US, or to the Bay Area? There's a huge contingent of people here who want to come there. Software developers, hardware architects, guys who are coders, different forms of artificial intelligence. So, what would be your line to them, that hey, you must be at least what?
I would say, I had a guy I worked for a long time back, and it was a summer position. And his feedback to me was, under promise and over deliver. And I think it's something very important. Here, what you do is more important than what you come from or anything else, or what you look like or anything else. If you can surmount that barrier, if I tell you I'm, going to be done in 2 hours, I better be done in 2 hours, not 2 hours plus 1 minute.
Right.
So the thing is, if you can hold your, and more importantly, hold your commitments, it plays out from the same thing. You make a promise, you deliver on your promise, because that means you're reliable. If you can do those things, obviously you have to work hard. There's no denying that part. And when I covered that nicely, but the question comes up is, working hard is one part of it. The other part of it is, sometimes things don't line up for you. How do you handle that? You have to sort of step back sometimes to go around the barrier. You cannot just jump or hurdle everything that you see. So that's something I would suggest to the people, yeah, you're going to fail. Let's be very honest. If you haven't failed, you haven't tried. We all have to, for you to run right now, you talk to your parents, they're going to tell you the number of times you fell when you tried to walk. So the thing is, yes, you can work very hard, but the question in my mind comes up is, hold your commitments and always promise people and then deliver on those promises. You lose your word, it's all over, no matter what you do.
Correct. Absolutely correct. So possibly then the last question, and we'll start off with you, Vivek, on this, is that what would you like to tell the DPS alumni? Your general message, not necessarily about coming to America or anything to do with work, or what's your message to them?
Life's too short, don't hold grudges, enjoy yourself, and stop by sometimes to smell the roses, so to say.
Have you been doing that yourself?
I do have a couple of rose plants. In the US, most of the cases you'll see big flowers and everything else. No particular smell, anything else. In my case, I had to get them for the smell. So the answer, fortunately is yes.
Fantastic. So fragrance, it's all about fragrance.
Exactly.
Good. Okay, and you, Vinay, what would you have to say to the DPS alumni community?
Look, I would say never forget your roots, where you originated from. Your school years, I'm probably going to get a bit emotional here. Your school years are your best years. Never forget the people who invested in you. And with this, I want to pay a tribute to my English teacher, Miss Usha Mathur, who was quite a character. You will remember, Rajiv. I don't know. She passed on, I heard, in the last couple of weeks.
Yes.
And she was a terror. And now, even now, when I get a ministerial and I write a brief for the minister, and I get asked repeatedly, "Oh, you come from India. How come you can write such perfect English?" And I said, "Mate, the teacher who taught me English, if you had her as your English teacher, believe me, you would be writing the same quality as well, because, notebooks used to fly and things." A special tribute to Miss Usha Mathur, to our esteemed principal, Mr. Deendayal, who I had the pleasure of meeting before he passed on. And I used to go back to school quite a bit. I still felt my roots used to pull. And another man I remember very vividly is Dr. Tiwari, who was the head of the chemistry department and then went on to be the principal for a while. So I think I owe to my parents, to my father and my mother, a big tribute, because my father worked in Africa and mom stayed on in India so that we could study at DPS. And I thank them for giving us the opportunity to study at this fantastic school. And I feel as part of being the original material, because DPS Mathura Road will always be the trailblazer. And I don't know if any of you, I remember it very vividly because I'm on a WhatsApp group with my 77 batch, with people like Shamjay Singh, Amod Kapoor, and co. Some of the real rascals of the year.
I know all of them.
Yes, and I'm sure you all will remember the DPS cry. So I'm not going to repeat it here, but
Right.
now a real gratitude to my parents that who could send me to the school, and for what the school did to shape my career. Some of the teachers have passed on, and I remember folks like Mr. Dhawan, Mrs. Kapoor, who was our biology teacher, who believed a lot in me. Incidentally, Mr. Baveja in the chemistry department. Then physics, Mr. Rao. Physics was something that I was not very friendly with.
I think he was VKRV Rao.
Yes. No. Hang on, not VKRV, ARV Rao.
ARV Rao, sorry.
ARV Rao.
Yes,
He used to be the warden for Ravi House.
That's correct.
Ravi House warden. Ravi House warden.
That's right.
Yes,
That's
so
right. Devanga would know. He's
Yes. I grew up in the hostel, so I know him.
Yeah, so AVR used to have a very mispronounced English accent, a very North American accent.
Right.
And him, Mr. Verma, and I didn't play a lot of sport. I played a bit of badminton while I was in school. And look, to me, my memories of school are really fantastic. I had, some really good teachers who I remember. And like I said, Miss Usha Mathura always stood out, and may her soul rest in peace. I really want to take this opportunity, especially recognize her and Mr. Deendayal. I still remember we had a couple of times we played pranks, and me and a couple of other guys, we were good students. We were on the top 5 in the class, but we used to play the maximum number of pranks, and we spent a couple of episodes lined up outside Mr. Deendayal's office.
Right. Both you brothers will be happy to know our Tanya Khanna, our very own Tanya Khanna. Her mother's been a teacher in DPS and she's been teaching English. Am I right?
No, she's teaching geography.
Geography. Okay. So she's been a
Khanna
teacher.
by any chance?
Yeah, Anupama Khanna. No, she's teaching geography presently from the past 30 years. And she was also a DPS pass out 84 batch. My entire family is from DPS. My Mamu 82 batch. So Debanga knows him.
My classmate, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Rajiv is 76 batch. I'm 77 batch. So I think the vintage goes back quite far, I think, as far as Rajiv and I are concerned.
Yeah.
Was Rishikesh Roy in your batch?
Yeah, he was my batchmate.
76 like Rishikesh was.
Do you remember Viney Arora?
Yes, I do remember him.
You remember Viney Arora?
Yes, I do remember the name.
He's my mama's mamu.
Oh, okay.
A dip site. So it's
another generation, yeah.
Yes.
So
you mentioned Mr. Rao, so I just remembered something. This only hostlers will know.
Yeah, we'll just come to that in a moment. Let me just kind of wrap this up.
Sure.
Yeah, so it's been very nice talking to you two brothers, and a lot of things which I did not know earlier. I think you brought them out in good perspective. Australia on one end of the globe, America on the other end of the globe, 2 different professions also, but yet, Phir bhi dil hai Hindustani. So thank you very much, Vinay. Thank you very much, Vivek, for taking out time and talking to us. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to request, the person who's really helped us in this is Vinay. Vinay, can you please unmute these, audience who are here, because we can have them, introduce themselves as well as ask you a question, perhaps. But make it quick, guys, because Vinay is probably way past 1 a.m. in the morning, and I don't want to keep him up anymore.
It's all right. It's okay. I've had a bit of a sleep. It's all right.
That's very sweet of you. That's very sweet of you. So whom should we start off with? We'll start off with.
Rajiv, I'd like to start before we proceed forward. So I'd just like to take a moment, and the message that you gave, Vinay, it was very, very heart touching to me, and thank you. I loved hearing that, and I would like to take a moment and thank you and Vivek, both who are here. I mean, it's very fantastic to have you both from 2 very different parts of the world to help us out and come on this platform and take us through your journey. It was wonderful hearing to you both. Thanks a lot. Okay, now I think.
Okay, now that we have followed the protocol of ladies first, now I'll go alphabetically. Abhishek. Abhishek, will you please unmute yourself and switch on your video, and let's hear you introduce yourself and tell us something about yourself and ask a question if you have one. Abhishek.
Hey, hi everyone. Yeah, this is Abhishek. I hope I'm audible now.
Yes.
Great, great. So I'm in a situation I cannot switch on my camera, so please bear with that.
Oh, we are okay with that.
Yeah, well, I think for me, listening to Vinay and Vivek was like, getting back to legacy. And more than that, Rajiv, it is more for you. I mean, I have been seeing these Facebook messages, all this time. And every time I used to think that I will join and, enrich myself with such a, interesting conversation. And truly, I joined for last 30 minutes and it was awesome. I just could not, I could connect to all the things being talked about. And it was really, really very, very satisfying. So
what
I'm
batch are
looking
you,
for,
Abhishek? What batch and what DPS are you from?
I'm from DPS Mathura Road. I passed out in 95. Okay.
95.
So I'm relatively very young, but thoroughly enjoyed it. And I will urge my batchmates also to join these
Good.
sessions. Okay. So that
Good.
we have more participants.
Good.
So,
any questions for the two?
Yeah, that's it
two
from my
handsome
side.
brothers. Yeah. Okay. So we'll move on.
No,
to
it's
Anita.
interesting. Keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we'll move on to Anita. Anita Nahal, 75 batch. Ma'am, are you there?
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, Anita, we can.
Hi, everyone. It was really nice listening to both the brothers in different continents and listening to your different perspectives on life. I passed out in 1975 from Mathura Road. I live in Maryland, US. I'm a professor, a poet, short story writer, and a children's writer. And I live here with my son, daughter-in-law, and our golden doodle. And I teach at the University of the District of Columbia, Washington, D.C.
Any questions, Anita? Not to Vivek, to Vinay, perhaps?
No, I think both of them, while you're brothers, what I found interesting was that you had slightly differing perspectives. Maybe not about the larger things, about whether you want to exchange your countries or lives or move back to India. And I agree with your perspectives. But on the other things, I found that very interesting. So it gave me a great insight into how siblings, when we move across countries, how our lives change, and obviously then our perspectives. But actually listening to two brothers was very nice. So thank you for that.
Devanga, the man from Russia.
Devanga Deka, 82 batch, DPS Mathura Road. Lived in the hostel, grew up in the hostel. So I don't have any questions, but I just wanted to tell you something about Mr. Dindal and Mr. Rao, which you probably would not know because if you didn't stay in the hostel. Mr. Dindal, sir, of course, I was very small, very young, and we used to play pillow fight with him.
Wow.
Pillow. He used to come to the hostel. We were in a dorm with like lots of people and children, and that was very nice. Mr. Rao was probably the most strictest warden we had, and he used to come in the nights and check whether we are sleeping under our. We used to have a night dress, but we used to sleep with our morning PT dress underneath. So in the morning we don't have to wear, we are ready. And he was the only one who used to come and actually check whether we are sleeping only with our nightgown or we are wearing something underneath.
Wow.
And he used to, he was very strict, but he was very nice also. So that's it.
Thanks.
We have a lot
Thanks,
of hostel stories. So that is for the hostlers.
Hard to believe Mr. Deen Dayal having a pillow fight. I'd say probably more like terrified of the guy walking around. I don't think he ever spoke much except in the assembly. You know, it's like just a very quiet, stoic person. And, you know, imagining him having a pillow fight, it's like, nope, not going to happen.
He was different with the children. He was different with the children.
I was a child there too, man.
No, I think the borders got very good care in DPS. We didn't live in the boarding house, but talking to people, you know, like people like Shamjay Singh and all those, you know, who came all the way from Manipur and all that. So they used to say that the school really looked after them very, very well. You know, they were well cared for.
Shamjay was a great player. Huh?
Oh yes. I was talking to him the other day actually on WhatsApp. So we have a DPS MR 77 batch on WhatsApp, and some of the serious ones, and then there is a DPS MR boys WhatsApp group. So I call that
for boys.
I call that the rogues gallery, and the other one is the other one is the civilized part, DPS MR, where all the girls and all are there, so they keep everyone civilized, and then there's the rogues club.
Correct. So moving on in the alphabetical order, we have now Prabhuda Pal, who's also in the US. Hey Prabhuda, how are you doing? Tell us something about your batch, what you're doing.
Yeah, sure. Hey, Rajiv, thanks. I'm here in Atlanta, and I'm 79 batch. So just in terms of batch cohesiveness, taking cue from the last, you know, where we talked about, 79 has a DPS WhatsApp group, which is hyperactive. The reason I use the word hyperactive is per day message count is 300.
Wow.
Jeez.
So deleting is a big problem, right? You know, the father figure of the group actually is a very famous doctor from Delhi, who may or may not have the high views about, he treats Bollywood stars. So Sanjay Chok, the famous psychiatrist. So he is the kind of the person behind the whole group. But there are 4 meetings, in-person meetings a year. You know, but I want to take to the earlier point made earlier in the chat, which is, I think, very important, which is the sacrifice our parents made to get us to DPS, you know. So not only just the financial sacrifice, but making sure the child is in the same school for so many years, you know, that is a very important part. And that enabled all of us, or I think certainly me, to have a stable career in DPS, which put me to SRCC. And basically DPS put me to SRCC. I would say it's very similar to what Rajiv's journey, and SRCC then put me on the rest of the path, right, wherever we have been. So I think that's DPS has a significant role in that aspect of it, and we all are connected today. The 79 batch is connected today as if we were, you know, in the class. It's literally that much connection. So I think that's big. Now, connecting to the theme of the topic, I would say that USA overall is a great place to be in. To earlier, point made by that, you know, whether it is laid back or not, I think it's a choice here. You don't have to join the rat race. If you want to make more money, or if you like that lifestyle, that's up to you. But in US, you can choose any lifestyle you want. That's an important point, you know. And also it offers excellent education. So anybody who, I think people who are considering careers overseas should certainly consider US, although there has been some negativity about, you know, how welcoming country it is in the recent years. So that's all, Rajiv.
Okay, great. So having said that, and having crossed the alphabet P, then we come to R, which is me, and I'm 76 batch from DPS Mathura Road. I'm a chartered accountant, and then worked in hotels, in ITC hotels for 9 years. Then I ran a software company. I founded and ran a software company with 22 people on board, working on Oracle RDBMS in 89. That time, Oracle was, I'm given to understand that Larry Ellison didn't have India on his map at that point of time. And Oracle operated out of a one-roomed office in the Maurice Sheraton. They had a liaison office, and TCS was the sole supplier of the product. They had no idea even how to spell the product. But anyway, those were the 1989 days. Subsequently, I came to the US. I had a great 5-year run there. I had to come back because my dad wrote me a letter, the subtext of which was, "Son, we're missing you." And I said, "All right, I'm back." And I've been teaching, training, mentoring students, teaching soft skills, employable skills, and writing novels, and making new friends. I mean, all of you guys, I mean, it's been fantastic meeting so many people. 18 episodes means 36 people. The last time we had one person, we had Puneet Ahluwalia, who's a Republican standing from, from the state of Virginia.
Virginia, yeah. He
Yeah,
was,
and
he's standing for governor there.
for lieutenant governor. And so so 36, 37 new friends. I mean, that's fantastic in a period of few months. So my only request to both you brothers, being DPS alumni, is pass the word around. We will be putting this event together, and we will put it up on YouTube. Pass it around. Let me know of any more DPS alumni who are across the globe who you think will be interested in coming on. So far, we're doing well on finances, but when we run out of money, we'll come to you guys and say, "Hey, some subscription, some membership fee, etc."
Sure.
But we'll come to that later.
Sure.
So with that, I'll take leave. Have a nice evening ahead. Have a nice day ahead. I also get a little confused. Evening means night sleep, sir, Vinay, and a day would be for Vivek.
Yes.
Russia, Devanga is always, happy-go-lucky. He says, I'm all good all the time. And Prabhuda, also being in California, you'll have a day. So thank you very much. And with that, I'll beg leave. Thank you very much all for coming. And Tanya, thank you very much for co-hosting. I really appreciate your help. Thank you very much. Thanks, Vivek. God bless. Namaste.
Namaste. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vivek. Thank you, Vinny.
Guys.
And thank you everyone for joining.